Malice or incompetence, that's usually the dichotomy we're presented with when trying to understand how and why the left operates as it does. But maybe we're just overcomplicating things because the left can easily be both. For example, Michael Cohen's former lawyer is running into some embarrassing headwinds, let's say, for submitting fake AI-generated cases to a Manhattan judge, though he won't be facing punishment for it. Perhaps a bruised ego is punishment enough. The judge, Jesse Furman, wrote in response, quote, "His citation to non-existent cases is embarrassing and certainly negligent, perhaps even grossly negligent, but the court cannot find that it was done in bad faith," end quote. I guess that's what David Schwartz gets for listening to Cohen in the first place. Michael Cohen, President Trump's former lawyer turned backstabber, admitted that he's the one who gave the fake cases to Schwartz from Google's artificial intelligence system Bard, but he maintains it was a mistake. Now, I don't really know how that's possible, but okay. The Daily Caller explains today, quote, "Schwartz is no longer representing Cohen. However, the mistake was discovered while trying to end Cohen's supervised release. He was on supervised release because of his 2018 conviction for tax evasion and breaking campaign finance laws." Rejecting Cohen's request for early release, Furman pointed out the inconsistencies in his statements and suggested he might have lied, the New York Post reported, end quote. Well, now that we've covered the incompetent side of things, and quite clearly, let's move ahead to the malice portion. And who better to use as an example than the vindictive Attorney General of New York? Taking a break from gloating over the accumulating interest on Judge Engoron's disastrous decision against President Trump, Letitia James argued today that the court should reject any request by President Trump to move forward with his appeal without having to post the entire $464 million bond first. If James gets her way and President Trump is unable to come up with the money by Monday's deadline, James may be able to start seizing his properties and other assets. The Trump campaign is putting out a new fundraising plea to supporters called "Keep Your Filthy Hands Off of Trump Tower." The goal is to get 1 million supporters to aid in this effort. Joining us now to discuss all this and more is military defense attorney Davis Yance. Davis, thanks for being here tonight.
Good evening.
So do you think the court should be granting President Trump's request for him to move forward with this appeal without him having to put up the whole sum of money right now?
I mean, absolutely. What is being done is he's subjected to an unprecedented use of a statute that's been in existence for 70 years. It's never been used like this before. So it's an unprecedented use of this statute. So there are significant legal issues in this case. There's every reason to believe he will have a high level of success on this appeal. But what is being done is an attempt to make it impossible for him to come up with this money unless he sells off significant assets that even if he wins the appeal, those properties are sold and gone. So he's being put into an absolutely unjust and impossible situation. It even appears to be a violation of the 8th Amendment, some sort of cruel and unusual punishment, what they're doing to him. And just before we came onto the air, the Attorney General went ahead and filed a judgment against the Westchester Golf Course in New York and his private property in Seven Pines. So now she's filed judgments against his properties in New York, Trump Tower, as well as his other properties throughout New York State. So it's absolutely absurd to make someone appeal, come up with all of this money, essentially suffer all of the consequences of a court decision before they can even appeal it. And irreparable harm will be done to him, his family, and his businesses if he has to go through with this.
It's just like you were saying, that they just love making the process, the punishment, and just wringing him with so much pain. And that's what makes me so upset, because Letitia James, this whole time, she's been gloating on Twitter or X, right? That, oh, the interest is now this much money. Now it's this much money. I mean, she's been just so excited, absolutely salivating over all of this. And I mean, we could go through the merits of the case or the lack thereof, right? We've talked about it ad nauseum that, the banks wanted President Trump actually to be their client. They went out of their way to get him because they knew that he'd bring in money. None of them ever claimed that they lost money. He paid back all of his loans with interest on time. So we could go through all of that. But I kind of want to harp on the point of how just vindictive all of this feels, because then also she had her, and I have this quote here, her senior assistant solicitor general, Dennis Fan, and basically he wrote to the court saying, well, the defendants are really just worried about a fire sale.